protesting is democratic. Full stop. Exercising and utilizing your constitutional rights under the First Amendment of redressing your government is democracy. It's a protected right. I don't even know where to begin. How about this? Let's start with here. Donald Trump is a domestic terrorist. Donald Trump is a clear and present danger to the United States of America and its inhabitants, citizens and non-citizens alike. Donald Trump has federalized the National Guard, the first time that the National Guard has been federalized against the wishes of a state and its leadership since 1965, I believe, when Lyndon Johnson sent the National Guard into the South to protect civil rights protesters, to protect protesters. And you've got Donald Trump, our serial felon, convicted criminal of a president, whining about law and order, convincing no one except for the MAGA cult that he actually stands for justice for all, for law and order. He's being asked now on the tarmac outside of his golf club, where he spends most of his time, one of his many golf clubs, the oligarch president of ours, asked about, are you going to invoke the Insurrection Act? Is this an insurrection taking place in Los Angeles right now? A man who incited a literal insurrection, a legitimate attempt, an illegitimate attempt, but it was legit, to overthrow the United States government by force, forcing the rejection, nullifying a free and fair settled American election, which put Joe Biden into office for 4 years. And they're asking Donald Trump questions about insurrection now, the press. Watch this very brief moment from New Jersey just a couple days ago.
California, are you prepared to invoke the Insurrection Act?
Depends on whether or not there's an insurrection.
You think there is, sir?
No, but you have violent people, and we're not going to let them get away with it.
And all of this is playing out on Truth Social. He posted this 2:41 a.m. on June 8th. Great job by the National Guard in Los Angeles after 2 days of violence, clashes, and unrest. We have an incompetent governor, Newsom, and Mayor Bass, who were, as usual, just look at how they handled the fires, and now they're very slow permitting disaster. Federal permitting is complete, unable to handle the task. A lot of this is incomprehensible, illegible, illiterate from our non-reading president. These radical left protests by instigators and often paid troublemakers will not be tolerated. Also, from now on, masks will not be allowed to be worn at protests. What do these people have to hide and why? Again, a thank you to the National Guard for a job well done. He's thanking the National Guard for a job well done when they hadn't even arrived on the scene yet, 1. 2, masks are not allowed and will not be tolerated to be worn at these protests. I'm assuming he means by protesters, because his personal federal outfit of domestic terrorists, ICE, and many Homeland Security officers, they wear the masks. It's been a chief complaint of why are our federal law enforcement officers dressed like thugs, dressed like kidnappers, covering their face, concealing their identities. What's the question he asks? And it's the question I would ask of them. What do these people have to hide? Are they ashamed of their actions? We're just following orders. We're just jackbooted armed agents of the state, oppressing rights, suppressing rights, trampling on the liberties of Americans. Let me tell you this. Look, there's criticisms that can go around relative to, burning corporate cars. These aren't like hardworking Americans who brought their cars there and then got caught up in the fray. Waymo cars. You're not going to see me shedding a single tear for some multi-billion-dollar corporation that lost 2 cars that were being used as surveillance by the LAPD and by cops, by armed agents of the state. These cars have cameras and microphones that were being used by cops. Donald Trump is now ready to deploy the Marines, apparently. Deploy my brothers and sisters in arms against the citizens of the United States. All while Gavin Newsom is pushing back. Very likely a lawsuit will be filed today, if it hasn't already, to try to get a judge to step in here and disallow the federalization of the National Guard under these pretenses. This false narrative of Donald Trump that there is an insurrection taking place or whatever. He had this to say about that.
Even if you don't plan to invoke the Insurrection Act, do you plan to send troops to Los Angeles?
What?
Even if you're not planning to invoke the Insurrection Act, do you still plan to send troops?
Well, we're going to have troops everywhere. We're not going to let this happen to our country. We're not going to let our country be torn apart like it was under Biden and his auto pen.
What is the bar for sending Marines to
The bar is what I think it is. I mean, if we see danger to our country and to our citizens, we'll be very, very strong in terms of law and order. It's about law and order.
Sending active duty Marines on the table, sir. Secretary Hegseth.
We're going to see what we need. We'll send whatever we need to make sure there's law and order.
Yeah. I'm going to talk about this in a subsequent video about the posse comitatus, something I've talked about for years on this channel, addressed for years. The using of American troops, which, by the way, is something that has been talked about, deriding Kamala Harris as though, I mean, there's this headline from The Hill, Kamala's newest lie, Trump will send the army after you. Where are we on that? Derek Hunter. How are you feeling now? Fucking idiot. Donald Trump also posted this on Truth Social. A once great American city, Los Angeles, has been invaded and occupied by illegal aliens and criminals. Now, violent insurrectionist mobs are swarming and attacking our federal agents to try and stop our deportation operations. Yes, they should be swarmed and stopped in this illegal, anti-humanitarian operation by the Donald Trump administration, by all of these face-covered fascists who are just following orders. He goes on, but these lawless riots only strengthen our resolve. I am directing Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and Attorney General Pam Bondi in coordination with all other relevant departments and agencies to take all such action necessary to liberate Los Angeles from the migrant invasion and put an end to these migrant riots. Order will be restored. The illegals will be expelled and Los Angeles will be set free. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Says the soft-skinned, callous-free, never done a day in his work in his life, Donald Trump, directing other people into harm's way. Our brave and mighty commander-in-chief of the armed forces who dodged the draft because he's a physical coward multiple times during Vietnam. In fact, going on Howard Stern and saying his personal Vietnam was not getting sexually transmitted diseases from all of the unprotected sex he was having during the Vietnam War. But MAGA salutes their chief. We salute you, sir. You're a patriot, sir. As they deploy and discuss deploying the United States military against protesters. Let me also say this. Protesting is democratic. Full stop. Exercising and utilizing your constitutional rights under the First Amendment of redressing your government is democracy. It's a protected right. Now, when you gather together with people, there's always going to be some bad actors, so to speak. Some people with less than noble motivations who aren't there to right or wrong, who aren't there to redress their government. But you need to be, as an audience out there, I think, if you are considering yourself someone who is pro-democracy, we support protests. Nonviolence, yes. But if someone acts in a civil disobedient manner, they're putting themselves in harm's way relative to prosecution. Civil disobedience is also going back generations and generations, an American value. But not if you listen to our domestic terrorist president, our weakling, morally, ethically, physically weak president, Donald Trump. Anyway, I'd love to know what you think about this. I got a series of videos to talk about LA, but also a bunch of other stuff today. I hope you'll join me for those. You can comment below. You can also call the voicemail line 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. I love and appreciate you very much. Thanks for your engagement and your organization, your passion for making this world a better place. I'll see you next time. Be genuine. Take care of one another.